Hello, folks. I had a little bit of trouble there with the YouTube sent me a message that they weren't receiving the stream very well. The other day I also had problems. I think it was because for the first time I used MP4 files, and I think that was the problem. So I don't know if I'm going to use them again. They're very comfortable, but I got to check to make sure they work. Anyways, we have an exciting day today. As always, I'm going to start a little bit with Extinction. I'm going to start with Extinction because I had several comments. I'm going to only deal with a couple here. Okay, here's the first one. Okay, some fellow says, as long as people have a square of soil, fresh air and water, we will have food. Okay, no. That's my answer. Here's my answer, okay? Yeah, you might have soil all you want, and have soil. We'll have food, and but this is what your neighbor might have. Let's put it over here. They may not follow the 10 Commandments, especially the last 5. And if he doesn't follow that, I don't think you can call 911 to try to help you out. What we're talking about here is the total collapse of defense. So the issue will be defense. That's going to be the question. After the economy falls apart, there will not be any 911 to call. And so you might have the plot of land, and you may want to plant food or seeds, whatever, and harvest them, 3, 4, 5 months later? Well, good luck. You're going to be run over by gazillions of people who have no land, have not planted, and they're just going to do a little bit of something else, okay? And you better be able to defend your land against a lot of people. So that's the main point there, So no, land alone is not the issue. The issue will be defense, okay? I keep saying that, you're going to be a hoplite. You're going to plant by night or by day, and or say plant by day and defend by night. Okay, here's another comment. Information exchange rules while over the service sector. You missed the power of nothing. Oh, the power of nothing. I love that one. Crypto is the internet and the kissings of the masses in order that one may survive as an individual, let alone the species. The sort of threat thereof is the mother of invention. What can I say? This fellow has not followed, I guess, some of my other presentations. I was disconnected momentarily. I don't know what's going on between OBS and YouTube. Anyways, information is services. We are in the information age, or like I like to say, in the age of disinformation, right? So to talk about exchange, information ruling over the service sector when information is the service sector. That's what the service sector is, information. Okay, so yeah, I don't think, you got to understand the context. The context here is that services is unemployment. It's unemployment because these are all middlemen, and they don't do anything. They just pass something from someone to someone else. That's all they do. And you have a producer somewhere, right? And that stimulates the economy somewhere else. And that's it. And then you have all these middlemen. That's all services are. And services are all promises also. I was talking about, the fact that you've got insurance, all the financial services, banking and so on, credit. That's all promises. That's all that is. You don't see that from God's eyes up there. All you see is what we constructed, what we're planning, what we built. We don't see the promises. So it's not real. The service economy is not a real economy. That's why I say it's unemployment. It's masked unemployment. Okay. Another comment here, moving along. Several comments, in fact, says, you have not detailed how the world economy will fall apart in a non-epidemic normal condition, how a collapse would unfold without this virus. And yeah, I have, I didn't factor the virus at all at all in my theory. I have my theory for 20 years. I didn't know the virus was coming. If anything, the virus speeded things up. That's all it did. But the process was already on its way. And so here's the theory for those who are not familiar with it. This is just a quick snapshot of the theory. Okay, we cannot continue to lay off workers or lower their real wages eternally, which is what we're doing for the last 20 years at least, and expect to have more and more consumers and more disposable income. Those two trends are, go against each other. They're in opposite directions. So yeah, those are the costs business would like to see, and that's happening. But the revenue is not going to happen. We're not going to have more disposable income. We're not going to have more consumers. Partly because of what you see at the bottom, population that business would like to see. They would like to have more and more people demanding more and more products, especially it could be any kind of product. Could be food. Could be manufacturing products. Could be services. But the point is that, our population is not expanding, okay? Our population is now, our growth rate, population growth rate is in fact going down, steadily going down. Let's see, let me get this out. Let me put that one back in there. And I just hope OBS doesn't crash on me, or YouTube like the other day had it all choppy. Here's another issue. This is what he was referring to essentially. This is the trend for population on Earth. This is world population. As you can see, it's going down, 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 steadily downwards. It's projected to reach somewhere around middle of the century. It's going to reach zero population growth, known as ZPG. Okay, so population is going down, and that's not going to help, those trends that I just showed. You can't have fewer and fewer consumers, in other words, less demand, and pretend that the companies are going to grow one year after another. No, our economic system is based on a pyramid scheme. Okay, it always expects an inverted pyramid scheme. In other words, we expect to have more demand, more consumers next year than we had this year. We expect to sell more next year. Okay, and if population is going to be declining, it's not declining, but the growth rate is declining. Well, at some point we're going to reach a critical point where the companies are going to run into trouble. They're not going to be able to sell more, and more so when everybody has everything they need. Right now, you have third world nations that are trying to catch up to first world nations. But once all those people, assuming, right, have what they need, or they have their refrigerator, they have their stoves, they have their beds, their houses, assuming we get to that point, right, the more they have, the less they need. And so the less that corporations will sell. And so, the Disneyland economist said, we'll invent something new. Well, manufacturing is not going to do it for sure, okay, because manufacturing is on its way down. We're going to sell the same amount of food. It's going to be, food is a Goldilocks commodity. You have to have it just right, okay? You can't produce too much of it or the price goes down and you put the effort for nothing. You can't have too little of it. It's got to be just right, okay? And, but services, what else can we invent? What more do you invent? More games? Is that what's going to keep the global economy afloat? Modifications of existing programs? Is that what it is? So no, that's not going to do it. And at least that's my point of view. I'm not here to convince people. I'm here to tell you my version of it, of how I see this economy going. You said in another video, world population is flattening out. That means quantity of food is not a problem. Well, yeah, quantity of food is a problem. And here, let me show you a little comparison so that you can see where I'm coming from this, more or less. Here's food in the animal world. All animals need food. That's 100%, okay? Some kind of food or another. All animals need food. Do all animals do manufacturing? Well, some of them do. You've got beavers, bears, ants, bees, wasps, so on, all the way down to monkeys. Sometimes they use sticks to get things out, and so on. So all these animals, and maybe there's some others that I missed there, do construction. They construct something. They build something for whatever reason, okay? But most animals really don't do manufacturing. A lion doesn't do manufacturing at all, sleeps in the rain and out there in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't have a house. He doesn't have to. He's the king of the jungle, right? Or of the plains or of the mountains or whatever. Services, I think it's only man that does services. Okay? That's what that graph looks like, or that picture looks like. And here's, in comparison, what we do, or the human economy. It's exactly in reverse. Food is handled right now by maybe 1% of the population, at least in advanced nations. If you include third world nations that are trying, I don't know why I'm having so much problems. Anyways, manufacturing, construction, about 19%, again, in advanced nations. Services is 80%, okay? So that gives you an idea that our economy is just the opposite of what it is in the animal world, more or less, okay? So it's in the opposite direction. And so, yeah, I don't know. Something is wrong when you have that situation. When you have, we're in opposite direction from Mother Nature. Mother Nature says, look, if we were still in the wild like we were in the old days, well, we would be hunting animals. Most animals would be out there. We'd have more animals than what we need, etc., etc., etc. Right now, we have it in the opposite direction. Here, let me show you a comparison, another comparison, okay? And this is a back of a napkin type situation, okay? Let me check to see if I'm still online. Okay, please let me know if I get shut off. I don't know what's going on with the OBS, okay? So if you still hear me, okay, thank you, Tesla. Anyways, here you have a typical normal pyramid. Now, these are numbers I just pulled out of the internet real quickly, okay? So this is not very scientific. I just want to show you a general picture. In the African pyramid, you have hyenas, lions, and wild dogs. They make up maybe, 60, 70,000 animals. Those three groups, right? Look at the amount of meat they have available to them. They have 1.5 million wildebeest, 770,000 zebras, and 400,000 buffalo. Okay, so you can see the picture there. The red block are the predators, and the blues are the herbivores. Right, so that's their prey, and that's a pretty good pyramid, because it means all these animals have unlimited food, essentially. Look at ours now, the man's pyramid. And, you can see that the ratio between humans and what's underneath them is not as clear-cut as in the African pyramid, okay? You see lots of humans, and this was done, I did this a few years ago, so now we got another billion people on the planet, but the pyramid is more or less like that. It looks more or less like this, okay? So what happens? You can see that this pyramid, our pyramid, is not a healthy one. And the reason it looks like that, okay, is that we produce food upon demand. We don't have 7 years worth of food like the biblical pharaohs allegedly had, or 14 years, 7 bad years, 7 good years or something. We produce food for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months. That's it. And it's all done by market mechanisms. If there's going to be more demand, they look at the market. We have that all very, very well fine-tuned. Okay. And what happens is, yeah, you produce enough food as there's going to be demand. You do a market study, you say we're going to need so many potatoes. So we're going to need 100 potatoes. That's it. And you don't produce 101 because it's going to take the price down. You don't produce 99 because you're going to lose upon demand. So food is almost where we need it. So we live day to day. So we don't have it like the African, or even in the Upper Paleolithic, where essentially you had, some humans like Neanderthals and humans, and we were hunting out there. And what did we see? Well, we saw buffalo, we saw deer, maybe the mammoths, the European elephant, essentially. and we hunted that. We lived a few days, and there were tons of these animals in front of us. All we had to do was spear them down. So we had an unlimited food supply for the amount of population we had. That's not the case today. Okay, today we produce it upon demand, and it's not produced by us. We have these corporations, agricultural corporations. They are nice enough to provide us with food and transport it to the cities and all that. And if money collapses, well, that chain disappears completely. In fact, I put an article in Facebook about the Hawaiians, that they live almost exclusively out of tourism, and now there is no tourism. They have like 30+% unemployment. So think about that. Food, and they still have food, but they're going to have to eat pineapple pretty soon. They won't have anything else. And the question there, you call service unemployment, it's been going on for thousands of years. No. Again, wrong focus on this. These are the economic modes through the ages, and people don't understand that. They never studied what's happened in the past. We had 200,000 years worth of hunter-gathering, more hunter than gathering, I would say. Maybe 10,000 years of farming, or maybe 15,000, I don't know, Neolithic era. And then we went into manufacturing about 200, 300 years ago, and we've only had 30, 40 years of services. And these are the modes of production. In other words, we switched from hunter-gathering to farming. That was the mode of production for 10,000 years or more. And then we switched over to manufacturing. That took over as we went into cities and started building factories and so on. That happened in the last 200, 300 years, in the last 200 or 300 years. And services took over right after Bretton Woods, 1979, more or less, okay? Why? Because you can't stimulate a service economy and have it balloon like it's ballooned with gold. So they had to take the gold standard out in order to create fake money. In other words, just money. Money is always fake, right? But they created money, and with that they were able to stimulate the economy, the service economy. And what ballooned was the service economy. Today, the advanced nations have 80%, 85% of their economy is services. In other words, they produce nothing. That's what services is, when you produce nothing. Okay, you're unemployed. But people think that it's great because this is the society today, and people just believe in that stuff. Okay, the last comment had to do with the subject matter of today, which is not extinction, it's physics. I'm going to do a little bit, even though extinction is part of physics. The reason I got into the extinction issue is because the relativists believe we're going to live forever. We're going to conquer the moon. We already done that, right? Now we're going to go to Mars, and then we're going to terraform Mars, then we're going to go move to Alpha Centauri, the nearest star, right? 4.3 light years away, round trip 9 light years away. We're going to do it maybe in 100,000 years, several generations. Sure. And I used to believe this, by the way, so I got to slap myself. And then we're going to conquer other stars and then conquer the galaxy? No way. Never going to happen. We're never going to travel interstellar, okay? And again, I used to believe this stuff as well. Anyways, that's not going to happen, but that's how I got into extinction. But here's the issue today, and here's a good introduction. Bill says that actions that are correlated between objects require the presence of an intermediary object. Whoa, so this fellow says that we're going to do this with spirits, with ghosts. Is that phantoms? Is that what he's going to use as mediator? What is he going to use a mediator? Spirit? I mean, is he going to use concepts? Is that what it is? He's going to throw love at it, intelligence, data, I don't know, information. Is that what he's going to throw from one particle to another? Is that how he's going to move? Is that how he's going to do entanglement, for example, or gravity, or even the gluon? It's supposed to hold the nucleus, within the proton, it's going to hold the quarks together. Okay, he's going to do it with magic, with spirits. What is he going to use? No, you need an object. Otherwise, you're a spiritualist. You're a person that doesn't belong in physics. You're doing spiritualism or spiritism, you know. You're saying, oh, yeah, we're going to do some magic and it just happens. Then you have not understood the mechanism. There is no mechanism there. All you're saying is it is so. God does it, or whoever, the angels. And it says, but there is heat and radio and magnetism and light and gravity. Yeah, all those are concepts. You got to explain how these mechanisms work. Nature abundantly shows that physical continuum is not a prerequisite. Well, again, you know, I'm talking to a wall there, okay? And here I can put the first principle of physics, the golden principle. It says physics requires an object. You can't do physics without an object. What is an object? That which has shape, okay? And you can't get away from that. And of course, religious people would like to overcome that and say, oh no, I don't like that because that destroys my religion, that rapes my virgin. Yeah, of course. That's why I say that the definition of the word object destroys all religions, because once you define the word object, you got to become a materialist for explaining the universe. You got to explain the mechanics of the universe. You can't explain mechanics with spirits or concepts, okay? You need things, you need objects, and for that you need to define the word object, and of course the word exist. And yeah, people don't like that who hold religious beliefs from when they were young, and they've made up their mind that there is some kind of phantom world that we'll never be able to explain, and that's all, you know, dark and magic, and oh, I like it that way because it's mysterious. No, in science we have to explain. Sorry, we don't go into religion, into mysteries. There are no mysteries in science. Okay, we have to explain. And you have one explanation, I might have another, that's fine. But we have to explain. We can't leave the room, the conference room, until we finished explaining. You can't say, well, I'm just going to leave it like that and I'll believe. No, that's religion. Okay? So no, we do need objects as mediators. If a pen, if I get one here, well, here I've got a little rock here, okay? If this rock falls to the floor, it did fall to the floor. If it falls to the floor, it means that something came in contact with the skin of the rock. And you say, well, I can't see it, I can't touch it. Yeah, Mother Nature, fortunately, she was smart enough and made them invisible and intangible. But there's something there, and you can either say, well, something pushed it or something pulled it. That's it. Those are the only two forces allowed. I don't know if you can think of a third one, but I'll let you figure it out. So either it's pushed to earth or pulled from earth, but something came in contact with the skin of the pen, with the skin of the rock, or otherwise you are introducing spirits and black magic. So yeah, I know this destroys your religion, but that's the way it is. You're in the wrong field if you believe that there are no mediators. You're doing magic, black magic, the worst kind. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Brian Greene. This fellow, he's a prominent, I hate to use the word physicist because he's not a physicist. He's a mathematical physicist, and a physicist part is extra credit. He doesn't deserve the word physicist in his title. No, he's a mathematician. That's all he is. He does, all explanations are magical. Okay, and that's what I want to show. Okay, so let's look at first his resume. It's important to resume because a lot of people look at him and say, oh, authority. This guy studied 10 years at the university. He studied physics. He's a scientist. He's not a scientist. He's not a physicist. He's just a showman. And he doesn't work for the physics world. He works for Hollywood, essentially. And he makes his money, you know, just blabbing nonsense. In other words, parroting or regurgitating what he learned in college by memory. And it's important to understand that those people who graduate from college with a mathematical physics degree, they're not scientists. The only person who can make it through all that is a guy who allows himself to believe the nonsense that's being passed on to him. Intelligent people, rational folk, they see that, and a lot of them drop out and say, well, hey, I'm going to go into engineering. I can't stand this stuff. I can't understand it. I don't like it. And so they go into another field. Maybe they become lawyers. They don't want to have anything to do with physics because there is no physics there. These guys are talking religion, they're talking about spirits moving the world around, and you never get a mechanism from them. So you're not going to understand physics by taking a course or graduating with a mathematical physics degree. Okay, so all those so-called mathematical physicists, quotation there, they're not physicists, and they're not even scientists. All they are is people who were able to complete the courses, get a degree, and then regurgitate what they learned. That's it. And what did they learn? They learned nonsense. They learned fantastic or irrational, surrealistic explanations for how the universe works. They haven't figured it out after 2,000 years. So something is wrong with the scientific method if after so many years, especially since Newton, the so-called scientific revolution, if no one can explain a simple magnet. These guys can't explain this, okay? How's that for a magic trick, okay? Okay, I'll put it this way, okay, so it holds there. No one can explain that simple thing. Now, how complicated can this be? You think that explaining this is more difficult than explaining how a car runs? I mean, here, a rock falls to the floor. That's gravity, right? Here's a piece of metal attracting another. That's a whole system. Is that complicated? You think that's going to require a PhD? It requires a rocket scientist? No, this is kid stuff. It better be kid stuff. All you got to do is make the invisible visible, the intangible tangible. You can't do that, but you can make the invisible visible. So you got to imagine, you have to visualize how Mother Nature is doing that magic trick. That's it. That's all you had to do after 2,000 years. Instead, these people from the days of the scientific revolution, so-called scientific revolution, what they did, they sent us on a tangent. They went on a tangent. What did they do? What do? They go on a tangent, okay? They went on a tangent. They started talking about doing experiments and doing math, doing equations. We don't need either one. We've done all the experiments that we need to do. Again, you want to understand a good experiment for gravity? Here it is, my cone, okay? That's it. That's the only experiment you need, ever. Now you got to explain that. What other experiment are you going to do? You want to measure how fast it goes? Fine, that's great. That's a description. I need an explanation, a mechanism for how that cone fell to the floor. And right now we don't have one, not a rational one. They talk about warp space. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And they talk about, particles somehow delivering negative momentum. They talk about idiocy. And we cannot accept these. Yeah. Okay, so who is this Brian Greene? Let's get on with him. Okay, here it is. Good old Brian, and he's a mystic because he's a guy who explains everything with magic and, ghosts and phantoms. Theoretical physicist, this comes out of the Wikipedia, by the way, mathematician and string theory. Well, I don't know about physicists. I know he's a mathematician, and string theories, I don't know what that has to do with physics, but yeah, okay. He has been a professor at Columbia University since 1996 and chairman of the World Science Festival since co-founding it in 2008. Okay, Greene has worked on mirror symmetry relating two different Calabi-Yau manifolds, concretely relating the conifold to one of its orbifolds. Oh my God, what the hell is that? So I decided to look it up. What's a conifold? It sounds like a con job. That's what it sounds like to me, but let's look at it. Here's a conifold, okay? This is what you find out there. This is what this guy is involved in. In mathematics and string theory, neither of which have anything to do with physics, by the way. A conifold is a generalization of a manifold. Unlike manifolds, I thought it was a manifold, okay. Unlike manifolds, conifolds can contain conical singularities, points whose neighborhoods look like cones over a certain base. In physics, In particular, in flux compactifications of string theory, the base is usually a 5-dimensional real manifold. A 5-dimensional real manifold. I wish they could draw it for me. Since the typically considered conifolds are complex 3-dimensional real 6-dimensional spaces. This is what these guys are doing. They're talking about 5 dimensions, 6 dimensions. What does this have to do with physics? What does that have to do with science? Okay? And it says conifolds are important objects in string theory, yeah, which has nothing to do with physics. Brian Greene explains the physics of conifolds, including the fact that the space can tear near the cone and its topology can change. What does this have to do with physics, with science, with anything? Okay? So, yeah, I think that it's a con job, more or less. And the important thing here, or a parallel issue that you need to consider here, is what you'll see for the this other one, the orbifold. And here it is. I'm not going to give you a definition because it's just so contorted you won't understand it anyways. But here it is. These are the key terms in the definition or in the description of what an orbifold is. And just look at a couple of them, and if you can understand any of them just by looking at it, then you're a genius, okay? Means you've been brainwashed. And these are the terms that they use to describe and define it, okay? And you can see it's all terms that they have to create, or that they've created in the last few years, for some of the fancy concepts that these people came up with. They really have come up with such nonsense language that you wouldn't believe it. I pulled out an example because I think it's important to note what these people are publishing. I mean, I'm sure most of you don't even read the scientific literature like I do, at least. And these are the terms that you'll find in there. And I'm sure you'll think they're talking in Chinese. Just listen to one abstract here, and I'm not gonna read it all because it's too long, okay? But here it is. Okay, and the guy says this is a group, right? The Gursat problem for nonlinear scalar equations on the Einsteinian universe with finite energy datum has a unique global solution in the positive energy. Moving down later on, it says, irrespective of energy positivity, there is a unique local in-time solution for arbitrary finite energy Gursat datum for all and blah, 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 establishing evolution from the given light cone to any sufficiently close light cone. These results show the existence of wave operators in the sense of scattering theory and their continuity in the Einstein energy metric for positive energy equations of the indicated type. They also permit the comprehensive reduction of scattering theory for conformally invariant wave equations in Minkowski space to the Gursat problem in blah, blah, blah. In particular, any solution of the equation arising from a non-negative conformally invariant biquadratic interaction Lagrangian on multi-component scalar sections. I mean, you know, it just drives you nuts just reading this nonsense. What does this have to do with physics? I mean, I just want to know why the rock fell to the floor. And these guys are... look at all the garbage that they invented. You know, this is what these people do. They get paid a lot of bucks to do this nonsense, and we've developed these mathematical concepts. And I studied a lot of math in college, let me tell you. But these guys have developed mathematics to ridiculous levels. Absolutely, this is not needed for anything in science or in physics. And so these guys are college professors, right? They make it to the top. How did they make it there? Because they sucked up. You know, they had to go in there and pass the test. That means they had to mark D on the test, right? And that means that D had better be the right answer, the one that the professor wants, which is the one he learned from his teacher and so on. So all we're doing is passing the same information from generation to generation, and the choir boys are just memorizing all this stuff and just repeating it. And that's how. And if you're a good choir boy, you know, then they give you a good job. They say, look, I'm going to put you in NASA, or I'm going to put you in at CERN in Switzerland, or maybe at Fermilab. So they get good jobs. They get all these positions or professorships at the universities, and they repeat the same nonsense to the next generation. That's all we're having now. There's no real scientists out there that's saying, well, how does a magnet work? You know, what really is light? They've given up on that, like Richard Feynman says. He says, you know, scientists have given up. mathematical physicists, they've given up on that stuff. They're not trying to explain the universe, how it works. They're just doing math to describe it to ridiculous levels now. And they're finding, the new generations even can't find subject matter to deal with because it's all descriptions, and they've already over-described this thing. How much more can you describe about gravity? What more are you going to say? And so they had to invent the black hole and the dark matter and all this invisible stuff, conveniently invisible stuff, very heavy, to explain stuff. That's already been explained, according to them, described really. And now what's next? What's new for the next generation? So yeah, we got a big problem. Like a lot of people have said, physics is at a crisis. In fact, science was at a crisis to the degree that they destroyed the love for science in so many people, because people don't understand all this stuff anymore. And so, they just go to the conferences or whatever to get an autograph from Brian Greene or whoever, Michio Kaku, and says, oh, look, I touch his hand. I don't think I'm going to wash my hand for 3 days unless I get coronavirus or Okay, so here's Brian also. This is his part of his resume, the universities he's been at, first as a student and then as a teacher, okay? And here you see it, okay? He's got a BS in physics from Harvard University, very important university, PhD from Oxford University, and he teaches or taught at Cornell and now at Columbia University. How important are these universities? Well, here you have it. Yeah, they're very important universities. Look at Harvard alone. $40 billion, $41 billion in endowments. Oxford University, a little less, $2.45 billion, okay? And Columbia University, $11 billion. Cornell University, $7.3 billion. These are big operations. Some of them, like in the case of Harvard, bigger than some countries as far as budget is concerned. So this guy has been around in some of the big universities, and those are the guys that the documentaries look for and say, oh, this guy's a genius, because he's got all these high-level jobs. We're going to pull him out and going to ask him to see if he can explain to the public what the people at Harvard and Cambridge and all these other universities talk about in the halls of their so-called physics departments, okay? Okay, so you get an idea that this guy's important, okay? So he's got authority within the mathematical physics world, okay? I think you have to grant it. A lot of you have probably seen Brian Greene around. I don't think anyone that doesn't know his name. You got several people like him, and I'm going to be covering them in the next few weeks. Okay, now here's an interesting part that you also should be aware of, okay? This guy also was given money, grants, okay, from an organization called FQXI, okay? Large grant awardee. He got a large grant, okay, for his project entitled Arrow of Time in the Quantum Universe. Arrow of Time. Must be an important project. I mean, if he gets big money, okay, I guess, someone's really interested in this. And so here I showed you a little bit last week. You had the time reversal here where the arrow goes backwards, okay? He says he doesn't know why time can go in reverse order, but he says, yeah, the laws of physics allow it. And so the glass reforms itself and comes to your hand, okay? So he actually believes in all this stuff, okay? He believes that time can be reversed. At least physics allows for it. Why does it allow for it? All you have to do is put a little negative sign in front of the little t, and you're done. That's how simple it is. Now, how difficult was that? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to see him doing it in the lab, showing me how a glass reforms itself, falls from the floor upwards to his hand and reconstructs itself. Yeah, I'd like to see that, That would be a magic trick. I don't even think some of these other guys could do it. Not step by step, Maybe the magician can show you a glass and he tricked you. That can be done. But the whole sequence, show you how little pieces of glass reassemble themselves and finally end up in the hand of the magician. No magician in the world can do that. Not Hollywood can do that. That's the only magician that can do it, Hollywood. Okay, so what is this arrow of time? Must be something very important. Okay, let's see. And it says arrow of time. What is these are the questions involved with the issue of arrow of time. Okay, why does time have a direction? I didn't know it had a direction. Which way is it pointing? North, south? Is it pointing to the left, to the right, forward, backward? Time has no direction. There is no such thing as time. You can talk about the direction of an arrow, but not of the direction of time. And so they use the arrow as, to fool you in the language. It's double talk again. They say, oh, look, the arrow of time. And it's pointing in that direction. No, there's no such thing in physics, at least, right? Why does time have direction? Are there exceptions to the principle of causality? In other words, can you have something happen in reverse? Or, one right after. In other words, instead of going from A to B, you go from B to A, again. This reversal thing of the arrow and of the glass. Is there a single possible past? So they're talking about, God having his file cabinet with all these pasts. And in this universe, you're in this cabinet. In this other universe, you're in this other cabinet, okay, or whatever, file. Is the present moment physically distinct from the past and future? How much do these guys drink? I mean, or is it merely an emergent property of consciousness? So now they don't get into physics. Now they start talking about psychology and who knows what else out there, psychiatry. They talk about the mind, like if mind has anything to do with physics. Again, we kill the observer in physics. We don't use observers. No testimonies are allowed. We kill the witness. Okay, and so who are these FQXIs? Well, I looked them up to find out, what these guys are up to and what money is going where. And here you see where the money is going. It says an organization that provides grants to catalyze, support, and disseminate research on questions at the foundations of physics and cosmology. It was founded in 2005 by cosmologist Max Tegmark. That's already raises a flag. Max Tegmark's not a scientist. He's not even a physicist. He's a blabbermouth again, another guy who just regurgitates what he learned in college. That's it. Who holds the position of scientific director? FQXI is an independent, philanthropically funded nonprofit organization run by scientists for scientists with a scientific advisory board consisting of a whole bunch of, again, non-scientists. It has run for worldwide grant competitions in 2006, 8, 10, and 13, the first of which provided $2 million to 30 projects. And the important thing is that last line there, the $6.2 million seed funding was donated by the John Templeton Foundation, whose goal is to reconcile science and religion. And they're very famous for that. Now, the people who run this, especially Tegmark, they'll say, no, look, we have total independence. The Templeton Foundation does not compel us to do this or to do that. We have total independence in so-called science. You wonder why Templeton would, which is a religious organization masking under the science, would fund this project, would help fund this project. I mean, does the Catholic Church also fund it? I mean, who else? And so I looked at the projects. What projects are these people funding? What research are they doing? What is this whole thing for? And here you see what they're doing. It gives you an idea. This is from their Twitter account, FQXI again. And the first line there, mind matters. It tells you a lot about what they're up to. They're not into physics, they're into mind, they're into philosophy, psychology, psychiatry perhaps. And these are the projects. These are different projects that you see there. To what degree our choices are free rather than determined? Now, what does that have to do with physics? How much control do we have over them? Quantum physicist Ian Durham presents a new mathematical model for free will. Now, what do you think of that? He's got an equation for free will, okay? Another one. We could run out of computational resources in 32 years, says so-and-so, and how alien civilizations could mine stars to create solar system-sized black cloud computers detectable from Earth. Another one, how do we make decisions? Now, what does that have to do with physics? Physicist Carlo Rovelli argues that agency can be explained by today's known physics and investigates the link between agency, time zero, thermodynamics, information theory, and evolution. Sean Carroll, another guy I'm going to be touching upon, on causality and the era of time. Carroll asks, why causes precede effects? And what makes our memories of the past special and different from calculations of what went before? And then we have Mr. Tegmark himself. Ask not what AI can do for physicists, but what physicists can do for AI. Here's Max Tegmark on creating trustworthy, intelligible AI and writing code that use neural networks to rediscover 100 equations from the Feynman lectures. And I like the last one. You can make a buck, if you're smart enough, some big honcho that came out of mathematical physics department out there says, help us find an unsung hero. If they win, they get $50K. You get up to $3K for nominating, spreading the word. Our first 3 awards went to all these guys, right, for helping prevent 2 nuclear wars and 1 bioweapons arms race. So this is what these people are into. They're into politics, they're into psychology, psychiatry, observers, testimony, witnesses. Is this physics? This is what physics has become. All these guys come out of physics, or so-called physics, mathematical physics, and they know it's a dead end, so they say, hey, I need a job. And so they go out there and they found these organizations. They're funded by what? Religious organizations. And they say, okay, why don't you investigate, the relationship between mind and physics or whatever. Some stupid thing, or an arrow of time and our perception. That's what the physics has become. They've destroyed physics. They've destroyed science. There is no inquiry for how things work. We don't know how the universe works. They don't know how a magnet works, but they're already talking about mind and how it relates to time, or who knows what, or how your mind gets squashed into a black hole, or stupid things like that. They're not into physics anymore. So I want to expose this. Okay, I want to make sure people understand that these people are loonies. Okay, so more specific in the subject of today, here we have Brian Greene, and he's got his version of gravity. And how he starts is by showing that Newton was wrong. Newton's a hero, everybody loves him, but he was wrong. So I don't know the contradiction. You would think that he would be lost in time. You're saying, well, Newton tried to do his thing, but poor fool, he didn't know what he was doing. Thank God Einstein came around. That's more or less the message today. Okay, and so he goes in there in his show. It's a what is it? What is it called? I forgot the word. Old age. Anyways, this is his show. He put on something called The Elegant Universe, okay? And in The Elegant Universe, he tries to explain gravity, and he starts by, again, tearing down Newton's version. Here's Newton's version according to him, okay? And it goes like this. He says, what if the sun were to disappear? Well, according to Newton, all the planets would run out of the solar system instantaneously. In other words, there would be no delay, according to Newton's equation, okay? Mass over distance squared, okay? And so here's the sun going around, the planets going around the sun, sorry. And if the sun disappears, all these planets just fly out instantly, okay? And he says, obviously that's wrong, okay? Why is it wrong? Well, he shows here why it's wrong. He says, what's the dilemma? Well, it has to do with the speed of light. He says, Einstein showed that nothing can go faster than light. And so here goes. This is the version of why Newton's is wrong. He says, look, here you have, if nothing can travel faster than light, how could the Earth be released from orbit, right, before the darkness resulting from the sun's disappearance reached your eyes? Okay? So you cannot have gravity travel faster than light, because light is the fastest thing. It takes 8 minutes for light from the sun to reach us, so gravity can't go any faster than that. Okay? That's his argument. That's going to be his argument. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, the first problem with that is they're thinking of travel. They're thinking of some particle, some unit. Could be a wave. It could be a particle. That's what they have in mind. They say, well, it takes a wave to go one way. It takes that wave 8 minutes to reach the Earth. And it takes a particle 8 minutes to reach the Earth. So gravity cannot travel faster than that, assuming, which they don't tell you that they're making an assumption that gravity is mediated by particles or waves. It would take gravity no more than 8 minutes, no less than 8 minutes to reach the Earth. That's his argument. And so Einstein solved the problem. Okay, and so what's the solution? Well, here he shows it again, very well illustrated essentially. Okay, so we can understand it quickly. And again, let's start here at the beginning. It says, if the sun disappears, the gravitational disturbance that results will form a wave that travels across what? Across the spatial fabric in much the same way that a pebble dropped into a pond makes ripples that travel, okay, across the surface of the water. Okay, so that's what he's saying. And so we wouldn't feel a change in our orbit around the sun until this wave reached the Earth. Okay, so the sun disappears, okay, and he says the Earth is still orbiting that center of mass, okay, and until the wave reaches you or the particle reaches you, he talks about waves along space-time, we would not feel the urge to leave the solar system. Okay, and that's what Einstein's equation shows. Okay, that it cannot be instantaneous. Okay, and again, all this has to do with particles, with some discrete whatever, call it wave, particle. Okay, third time. I hope everybody's still there. I don't know why I keep getting cut off by OBS and YouTube. There's no, I'm not. I'm not paranoid. I'm just, there's some thing there going on. Can anybody hear me out there still? Let's see. I'll wait for an answer. Hello, anybody out there? I don't know why OBS is doing this. Okay, well, I'll continue. Hopefully something happens. Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, so what's the problem? Here are the problems, the fatal problems with what Greene is saying, assuming he's representing Einstein faithfully, okay? We're going to make that assumption because I can't say he's representing Einstein. Einstein can't speak for himself now, I guess, right? We would just have to read his works and try to interpret them. So all I can do is criticize Greene's version of Einstein, okay? Let's make sure we got that within the right context. Okay, so this is what's wrong with what this says, assuming Einstein said this and what he meant. First, there's no physical object called space-time. No mass, and yet there is gravity. And then change in weight is instantaneous. Let's look at one by one, okay, of these. What's wrong with what Greene is saying here? Okay, let's look at that first one. Let me get this up here. Okay. Okay, here you have what they're saying. What he's saying is that time is warped. He's got this coordinate or dimension, if you want to call it. That's what they call it, a dimension, and it's warped. And it's this warpage that's coming in contact with the skin of the Earth and preventing physically the Earth from leaving the solar system. He's saying time is warped. Okay, that's the irrationality these people are saying, especially when time is a concept. So they're saying time is warped. It's part of this this wall that prevents Earth from leaving the solar system. Okay. And it's got to be warped because we have the Earth goes around the sun in curves, right? Elliptical orbit. And then there's a second or a corollary to this, which is here you have the moon. And what does the moon do? Well, the moon goes around the Earth and goes right through that same wall. It's got to, because see, the wall comes in contact directly with the skin of the Earth. And here's the moon going around the Earth 1 light second plus away from us, and it's got to go through that wall when it orbits the Earth. So we got a problem first because we have a concept that's stopping the Earth coming in contact physically with the Earth and preventing it from leaving the solar system. And then we have the moon going right through it like if nothing. Okay, so that's the first problem here. Let me put that back up there. Second problem. Okay, what do you mean? Here we have the picture from from Greene's own presentation, his documentary. That was the word I was looking for before. No mass, the sun disappears, and you have the Earth still going around a nothing. You know, this destroys Einstein's equation. That's why I'm saying I don't even know if Einstein really meant this, because if there is no mass there, okay, the sun disappears. What is the Earth orbiting? Why is it going in circles? Now we don't even have a mass. So this is what Greene is saying. If we make the sun disappear completely, right? The Earth, and he's not talking about mass because he's that the mass remains behind, because he's saying, look, you know, the sun completely disappears, vanishes. There's no more sun. That means not even the mass remains behind. And here you have the Earth orbiting nothing. Okay, so he's got an irrationality there, total irrationality. And let's get to the last one, the change in weight. Okay, here he fails completely. This is fatal, totally fatal to Einstein theory, if that's what Einstein said or meant. Okay, see if I can get this thing up here. Okay, and here you have it. If the Earth moves 1 inch closer to the sun, it weighs more. And if it moves 1 inch farther away, it weighs less. And this is a fact. I mean, this you can show it by jumping from an airplane without a parachute. The closer you get to Earth, the faster you go, the more you weigh, in other words. If we had a scale and we could measure your weight at 1,000 meters, at 100 meters, at 10 meters, you would see exactly that you change according to location. Weight is location specific. It's known as a field, whatever a field is to the mathematicians. Means there's a value for each point in space. In other words, location in space. Okay? And so if you're falling from an airplane without a parachute, just free fall. One guy did it, by the way. He fell into this net. Very interesting. But if you fall, and we could weigh you at different points, right, as you fall, you would weigh more and more and more the closer you get to the Earth. Okay? And so weight changes instantaneously. What does that mean in terms of what Greene is saying here? Well, here you see it. Here you have an astronaut, and if he's closer to the Earth, he might weigh 50 kilograms. But if he's farther away, he might weigh 25 kilograms. Okay, so the closer he is to Earth, the more he weighs. This is a fact. So whoever violates this is violating what we measure out there. Especially mathematicians, they like to measure experiments. Well, here they know this is a fact, but they don't mention that. See, the question is that you weigh differently at different points closer to the Earth, and farther away you also weigh less. Okay. That's why when astronauts go out there into outer space, except for the flat earthers, right? You know, they float. They float around because there's no gravity out there. The Earth is so far away that it doesn't pull on them, right? Whatever pull is, or the particles are not pushing on them, on the astronaut closer to the Earth with any strength. That's why. And yeah, no, the rope model. So you know, this violates what he just said. If what Greene just said, if as Greene says, you know, if it's true as he says that the sun disappears, okay, there should be no gravity for the Earth, and since it's location specific, the next location of the Earth just weighs nothing because it's got nothing to gauge its weight against. So it should fly off. There's nothing to retain it to. There's no mass. The sun disappeared. Okay? And imagine here in this case as well. Imagine if the Earth disappeared. How much would the astronaut weigh? Well, he would weigh the same as in the middle of space. He would weigh nothing. He would be floating around because he has no mass, no moon, no asteroid, no sun to gauge his weight with. Okay. Okay. How do we explain it in rational science? Very easily. Weight is very easy to explain, and here you have it. Weight has to do with the number of ropes, effective ropes. That's got to be clarified. Effective ropes connecting you to Earth. The closer the astronaut is to Earth, the more the ropes fan out. You have more independent ropes connected to that astronaut, to his toe or whatever atom he's got in his body, and so you have more ropes. And the closer you get, the more ropes fan out. The farther you are, the fewer ropes you have. So the sun twirls the earth around like a bunch of Lilliputians swinging Gulliver around themselves. That's why the earth doesn't leave the solar system. Now you can explain it with a mechanism. Now you have a mechanism. You twirl, I think I have it somewhere. No, I don't. You twirl a ball around your head, at the end of a string, and that's exactly why the earth doesn't fly out of the solar system, because every atom on Earth is connected to every atom of the sun. But to say that if the sun disappears, the Earth instantly, it takes 8 minutes to run out of the solar system, that's irrational. Because weight, the notion of weight, the measurement of weight shows that that's irrational. Weight changes instantaneously by location. And that's the issue Greene has to address. Okay, I'm going to continue with Mr. Greene next time around, okay, on Sunday. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. And I hope some of this came out right. I don't know. I had 3 interruptions there with the system. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.